All right, get ready to have your mind blown because today we are diving deep into a world that might just change how you think about brushing your teeth.
Oh, yeah.
It's the fascinating world of oral bacteria
Fascinating, right?
and how these tiny residents of your mouth could actually be influencing your brain.
It's true, and it's a connection that is really starting to gain some traction in the scientific community.
Well, for this deep dive, we're taking a close look at some cutting-edge research from the University of Exeter.
It was recently published in PNAS Nexus.
And this research dives into how specific types of bacteria in our mouth could be linked to everything from sharper thinking to a higher risk of Alzheimer's.
Yeah, some pretty big implications there.
I have to admit, when I first saw this article, I was...
A little skeptical.
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, what could the bacteria in my mouth possibly have to do with my brain?
Right, I get that. It's not something you'd automatically think about, but when you consider how interconnected our bodies really are, it's not so crazy.
Okay, so let's break down what the researchers actually found.
Absolutely. So they identified certain bacteria like Neisseria,
Neisseria?
and Haemophilus.
Okay.
And these seem to be associated with better cognitive function.
Okay, so those are our good guys.
You got it. But on the flip side, higher levels of Porphyromonas.
Porphyromonas.
Yeah, try saying it 3 times fast. And Prevotella were linked to lower cognitive performance and even an increased risk of Alzheimer's.
So it's not just about having bacteria in your mouth, which we all do, but it's about the specific types and the balance between them.
You hit the nail on the head. It's like a garden. You want a diverse ecosystem with a healthy mix of plants, right?
Right.
Same goes for your mouth. You want those good bacteria to flourish and to keep the bad ones in check.
I'm starting to see the picture here, but how could these tiny bacteria in our mouths actually be influencing something as complex as our brains? I mean, is there like a direct line from my gums to my gray matter?
Well, the researchers propose 2 main pathways. The first is a direct route.
Direct route.
Yeah, where harmful bacteria could actually be entering the bloodstream from the mouth.
Uh-oh.
And then making their way to the brain.
So like tiny invaders sneaking past security.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And then there's the second pathway, and this one involves nitric oxide, which is crucial for brain communication and healthy blood flow.
Okay.
It turns out that some of these bacteria, particularly the good guys like Neisseria, play a role in converting nitrate, which we get from leafy green vegetables, like spinach,
Yeah.
into nitric oxide.
Okay, wait a minute. So the food I eat could actually be influencing the balance of bacteria in my mouth, which in turn affects my brain health.
It's true.
Whoa.
It just goes to show how interconnected our bodies are and how seemingly small choices like what we eat can have these ripple effects throughout our entire system.
Yeah, it's like a chain reaction.
Exactly. And what this study found is that an imbalance in the oral microbiome with too many of those bad bacteria and not enough good guys
Right.
could hinder that conversion process.
You mean from nitrates to nitric oxide?
Yeah, potentially leading to lower levels of nitric oxide. Remember, nitric oxide is essential for all those higher-level brain functions, learning, memory, focus.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, that makes sense. But it raises another question. If the good bacteria are helping to produce nitric oxide, what's going on with those bad bacteria we talked about earlier, Porphyromonas and Prevotella? Are they just passive bystanders, or are they actively causing trouble?
That's a great question, and the research suggests that they might be more than just passive bystanders. Remember how we talked about Prevotella being linked to lower cognitive performance?
I do.
Well, it was also more common in people carrying the APOE4 gene, which, as you may know, increases the risk of Alzheimer's disease.
So it's possible that these bad bacteria are doing more than just hindering the production of nitric oxide. They could be contributing to the development of Alzheimer's in some way.
That's one of the hypotheses that researchers are exploring, and it makes you think about the potential implications for prevention and treatment. Could we one day target these specific bacteria to reduce the risk of cognitive decline?
Okay, now I'm really starting to see the potential here, but before we get too carried away with future possibilities, let's zoom back in on the study itself. How did the researchers actually go about investigating this connection between oral bacteria and brain health?
They used data from a large-scale UK study called PROTECT, which is tracking the brain health of over 25,000 people.
That's huge.
It is. For this particular study, they focused on a smaller group of 110 participants over the age of 50.
Got it.
And they divided them into 2 groups, those with healthy brain function and those showing signs of something called mild cognitive impairment, or MCI for short.
Mild cognitive impairment, MCI, I think I've heard of that. Can you remind me what that means exactly?
Sure. It basically means that someone is experiencing cognitive decline that's a bit greater than what's expected for their age.
Okay.
But it's not severe enough to be diagnosed as dementia.
Gotcha.
It is, however, a significant risk factor for developing more serious cognitive issues down the line.
So catching it early is key.
Exactly. Which is why this research is even more intriguing.
So how did they actually link these specific bacteria to cognitive function? Did they, perform brain surgery on these participants?
No, thankfully no brain surgery was involved.
Okay, good.
They analyzed mouth rinse samples from these participants looking for patterns in the types of bacteria present.
Mouth rinse samples?
Yeah, and what they found was pretty remarkable.
What'd they find?
Certain bacteria were much more prevalent in the group with mild cognitive impairment.
So simply by analyzing someone's saliva, they could potentially identify those who are at a higher risk of cognitive decline.
That's the hope. Imagine being able to detect those very early signs of cognitive decline just by analyzing someone's saliva during a routine dental checkup.
Wow, that would be incredible.
Right. It could be a total game changer for early intervention.
I'm starting to feel like this is all sounding a little too good to be true. Is it really possible that something as simple as tweaking the bacteria in our mouths could have such a significant impact on our brain health? Are we talking about a potential cure for Alzheimer's here?
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is still early research.
Right.
And there's a lot more we need to understand about this complex interplay between the oral microbiome and brain health. But the findings are certainly exciting and point to a potential new avenue for prevention and treatment.
It's definitely a lot to process, but I have to say I'm feeling more intrigued than skeptical now.
Well, that's the beauty of science, right?
I guess so.
It's constantly challenging our assumptions and revealing these unexpected connections. And who knows what other surprising discoveries await us as we delve deeper into this fascinating world.
Well, that is a perfect segue to part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll explore those potential discoveries and what they could mean for the future of brain health. So stay tuned. Okay, so we've established that the bacteria in our mouths might be playing a much bigger role in our brain health than we ever imagined. But what does this actually mean for us? What can we do with this information?
Right, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer is still unfolding as researchers continue to explore this fascinating connection. But I think this study opens up a whole new frontier in how we think about brain health.
I am all for exploring new frontiers, especially if they involve microscopic life forms, but give me some specifics. What kind of potential are we talking about here?
Well, one of the most immediate applications is the possibility of early detection.
Early detection.
Imagine a simple saliva test.
Saliva test?
Yeah, at your dentist's office that could flag potential cognitive issues before any noticeable symptoms even appear.
That would be incredible. I mean, we all know that early detection is key when it comes to so many health conditions, but is that really a realistic possibility?
Well, one of the researchers involved in the study, Dr. Joanna Lurer, seems to think so.
Okay.
She suggests that routine dental checkups could one day include tests for these specific bacteria. The technology is already there. It's just a matter of making it accessible and affordable.
So instead of just checking for cavities, our dentist could be giving us a glimpse into our future brain health.
Yeah, it's a powerful concept.
It is. It really changes the game in terms of prevention and early intervention. And it's not just about detection. Professor Ann Corbett, another researcher for the study, highlights the potential for developing new treatments that specifically target the oral microbiome to protect brain health.
Yeah, there's a lot we can do.
Okay, now we're talking. But what would that actually look like? Are we talking about like special toothpaste or mouthwash that promotes the growth of good bacteria?
It could be as simple as that, or we might see probiotics specifically designed for the mouth, similar to the probiotics we already take for gut health.
So in the future, we might have a separate probiotic for our gut and our mouth.
Exactly. And these oral probiotics could contain specific strains of bacteria that have been shown to be beneficial for brain health.
Okay, I can already see the marketing campaigns. Boost your brain power with our new brain probiotic.
Haha, I'm sure someone's already working on it. But beyond probiotics, there's also the potential for more targeted therapies that specifically address imbalances in the oral microbiome.
You're really painting a picture of a future where we have much more control over our brain health than we ever thought possible.
And that's the most exciting part. This research empowers us to take a more proactive approach to our cognitive well-being. It's not just about accepting cognitive decline as an inevitable part of aging. We might actually have the tools to influence that trajectory.
Okay, so let's say I want to start taking my oral microbiome seriously right now. What's my first move? Do I need to rush out and buy a fancy electric toothbrush and stock up on mouthwash?
Well, good oral hygiene is always important.
Right.
But it's not just about brushing and flossing. Remember, the food we eat plays a crucial role in shaping the balance of bacteria in our mouths.
You're bringing us back to that garden analogy.
Exactly. If you want a healthy garden, you need to feed the soil with the right nutrients. The same goes for our mouths. We need to nourish those good bacteria with a balanced and diverse diet.
So ditch the processed foods and load up on the fruits and veggies.
That's a great place to start. Remember those leafy greens we talked about earlier?
I do.
They're packed with nitrate, which our bodies need to produce nitric oxide.
All right, time to embrace my inner rabbit and start munching on spinach. Are there any other dietary tweaks that could help?
Well, some early research suggests that fermented foods like yogurt, kimchi, and sauerkraut might also be beneficial.
Fermented foods?
Yeah, they contain live bacteria that could potentially contribute to a healthier oral microbiome.
So my kimchi obsession might actually be doing my brain a favor. Who knew?
As with everything, moderation is key, but it's certainly worth exploring the potential benefits of fermented foods.
Okay, this is all incredibly fascinating. I have to ask, how much of this is still speculation? I mean, are we really at a point where we can make concrete recommendations based on this research?
It's important to remember that this field is still relatively young, and there's a lot more research to be done. We need more large-scale studies to confirm these findings and to really understand the specific mechanisms at play.
So more research is needed?
Definitely, but I think the evidence is compelling enough to warrant attention and to encourage people to start thinking about their oral health in a new light.
I agree with that. Okay, so we've talked about early detection and potential treatments. But what about prevention? Is there anything we can do now to reduce our risk of cognitive decline later in life?
That's a great question, and it's one that researchers are actively investigating. But based on what we know so far, it seems that a holistic approach is key.
Holistic, meaning?
Meaning, we need to consider all aspects of our health, not just what we put in our mouths,
Right.
but also how we manage stress, how much we exercise, and how well we sleep.
So it's not just about popping a probiotic and calling it a day?
Exactly. It's about making those everyday choices that support overall well-being, and that includes taking care of our oral health, which, as we've learned, might be more important than we ever realized.
Well, this deep dive has certainly given me a lot to chew on, so to speak. Who knew that the tiny bacteria in our mouths could have such a profound impact on something as complex as our brains?
It's a humbling reminder that we are not just individuals, but rather complex ecosystems teeming with life, both inside and out.
And that those seemingly insignificant aspects of our health can have a much bigger impact than we ever imagined.
That's the beauty of science. It's constantly revealing these intricate connections and challenging us to rethink our assumptions. And who knows what other surprising discoveries await us as we continue to explore these uncharted territories.
Well, that's a perfect note to turn on for part 2, but stick around because in part 3, we're going to delve even deeper into those potential discoveries and explore what the future might hold for the fascinating field of the oral microbiome and its impact on our brains. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about the good and bad bacteria in our mouths, how they could be impacting our brain health, and the potential for early detection and new treatments. But I'm still left with this lingering question. What if we get it wrong?
What do you mean?
Well, we've talked about manipulating the oral microbiome, with probiotics and other therapies. But what if in our quest to create the perfect balance of bacteria, we accidentally disrupt something crucial?
Oh, I see what you mean.
The microbiome is incredibly complex, and I can't help but wonder if we're meddling with forces we don't fully understand.
Yeah, I appreciate your caution, and it's a valid concern. We have seen this play out in other areas of medicine where interventions that seemed promising initially turned out to have unintended consequences. The microbiome is still a relatively new frontier, and we need to proceed with humility and a healthy dose of skepticism.
So what's the responsible way forward? How do we balance the potential benefits of these new discoveries with the need for caution and further research?
Well, I think transparency is key. Researchers need to be upfront about the limitations of their findings and the potential risks involved. And consumers need to be wary of any products or therapies that make grandiose claims without solid scientific backing.
So no jumping on the latest probiotic bandwagon without doing your homework first.
Exactly. It's about being an informed and empowered patient, asking questions and demanding evidence.
Speaking of evidence, what kind of research is still needed to really unlock the full potential of the oral microbiome for brain health?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is understanding the cause and effect relationship. We've seen correlations between certain bacteria and cognitive function.
Right.
But we need more research to determine whether these bacteria are actually causing these changes or simply a reflection of other underlying factors.
So it's like the chicken and egg dilemma.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know which came first. We also need to figure out the best ways to manipulate the oral microbiome safely and effectively. What strains of bacteria are most beneficial? What's the optimal dose for probiotics? How can we personalize these interventions to individual needs?
Right.
These are all questions that require further investigation.
It sounds like there's a lot of work ahead, but I have to say I'm more excited than ever about the possibilities. If we can crack this code, it could revolutionize the way we approach brain health.
I agree. It's a field with immense potential, and I think we're just scratching the surface.
Well, on that note of hopeful anticipation, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from the nitty-gritty details of bacterial strains to the far-reaching implications for the future of brain health.
It has been a fascinating journey.
It really has. And if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to do your own research and explore the wealth of information that's available on the oral microbiome and its connection to brain health.
And remember, as with any new scientific discovery, it's important to approach these findings with a critical eye and to consult with healthcare professionals for personalized advice.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, and the more we understand about the intricate workings of our bodies, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions about our health.
Well said.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep brushing those teeth. And be sure to join us next time for another deep dive into the fascinating world of science and discovery.